my prediction is that evolution has been going on for a long time, and it'll continue to go on, and it'll go on in the same way it's always developed. DNA will change bit by bit, little by little, and plants and animals will change. I have a couple of creationist magazines at home that told me in the Creationist magazine that the reason that we have thorns on blackberries and roses and the reason we have a toothache is because Adam and Eve fell from grace when they sinned. I have a hard time accepting that as scientific evidence. I would rather use as my scientific evidence tracing the origin of thorns and origins of teeth back to their beginning, rather than relying on the fact that Adam and Eve sinned and that brought a disaster into the world. I'm done.
Professors, would you like to formulate a question or another statement? You do have 2 minutes.
Do we have more time? Do we have more time?
You will after 5 minutes.
How many?
After Mr. Hovind goes.
I didn't hear a word you said.
We can understand you.
I'm sorry, you'll have 5 more minutes after Mr. Hovind has his 5 minutes.
So what were the 2 minutes that you said that we had time right now?
Is it on the board? 1 minute and 47 seconds.
And we just talked about it.
And who has that time right now?
You do. Any three
one
of you.
of us?
Yes, sir.
Oh, okay. Just trying to get the
I'm sorry.
Image straight.
Thank you.
I do wonder about my earlier question. I don't feel comfortable about it being answered. That is, you keep insisting that the God of the Bible in some way is responsible for all this. You may, even if you were to prove that there's some kind of spiritual force, it is not necessarily the God of the Bible. So you're taking a giant leap there. So I think there's a lot of that has to do with lots of faith that has to be developed in there. And I see that from our group here. And I think Mark Twain said about faith that faith is believing something you know ain't true. I don't think you can rely on faith. I think you need to, if you want to be honest, intellectually honest, you've got to come up with something a little bit more solid than just to buy in to the fact that 80% of U.S. Americans are God believers and only 14% are not. So I don't know. Is that? Can he answer that or?
Absolutely.
All right, that'd be nice.
What was the question? Phrase the question again, please. You didn't really get. You made a statement. I didn't hear a question there. What do you want to hear?
Okay, my original question was for you to show where the deity comes from. And you keep insisting that it is the God of the Bible. But that is another leap of faith that seems to be part of that. Can you sort of trot that out a little bit more? And let me say one thing also about the story that you gave about the National Geographic, or was it the Scientific American, with the the bird and dinosaur thing. It shows that the scientific community is working. These people are in dialogue. Error may occur where reason is left free to correct it. And in your system, it's nailed down by the Bible, and no, I cannot challenge that. With the invention of all kinds of strange beings, I just looked, this is very much news to me. I looked at one of the books that Jim has here, where the assertion is that evolution is inspired by Satan. And what now? We have
Thank you,
God,
sir.
we have
We're going to have to
Satan,
cut you off, and you can be back in 5 minutes.
Carry on.
I guess I'm still a little baffled what the question was. If your question, if you're going back to, you didn't like my answer of how God did it, God was just, God is outside of time, space, matter. I think you need to stop and look at the theory that you are believing in, apparently, because there are so many thousands of unanswered questions. See, it's much easier for me to believe in the beginning God than to believe in the beginning dirt or matter. The evolutionist does not answer the question. There's 6 different types of evolution, as I shared clearly earlier. If the Big Bang Theory is true, then I would like to know what exploded and where did it come from and where did the energy come from and where did the space come from for the matter to expand into, and where did the organization come from and where did the information come from. There's a whole host of questions that are a whole lot harder for you to answer than in the beginning God. Where's information come from? Man is, this universe is not just random molecules circulating around. I mean, it carries information. Just like a book is so much more than ink on a paper. It carries information. And the DNA is more than just chemicals. It's information. So the evolutionist never answers the question, where did this information come from? Where did the energy come from? Where did the matter itself come from? And you gripe about my belief. I believe by faith in the beginning God. I know, I admit I don't understand that. But you believe hundreds of things by faith. You don't even understand that you're believing by faith. You think matter is either eternal or can create itself. Well, that's the two choices. How did matter get here? The world is here. Where did the matter come from? Did it just happen by itself, or is it all just imaginary? We're not really here at all. You're faced with the option of, we're not really here, this is all just our imagination, or it had a beginning, or matter is eternal, which is both of the second two options are in violation of the obvious laws of thermodynamics. Matter doesn't create itself. And everything degrades over time, so either it had a beginning or it didn't. If it had a beginning, then what was before the beginning? I mean, there's so many thousands of things you take by faith. You say, I say in the beginning God, and you say, well, this matter somehow either was always here or created itself, and then this matter somehow became alive, and then this first living thing learned how to reproduce, and then it learned how to make something other than its kind. I mean, even though nobody's ever seen that, nobody's ever seen a dog produce a non-dog. Or you mentioned about, you know, the fact that a wolf and a fox and a dog coming from a common ancestor off Noah's Ark in only 4,400 years. For heaven's sake, you believe they came from a rock. I mean, come on. I don't think my theory is that silly at all. So, if my answer to your question is still the same, I believe in the beginning God. I do take that by faith. Here's the major difference that I don't think you're going to understand. I admit mine is a religion. They do not admit theirs is a religion. They want you to think what they believe is science, and all of you should pay for their religion to be taught in this university. And that's the situation we have today, and that's unfortunate. There have always been situations where the majority taught something. I mean, in the Soviet Union 15 years ago, if you stood up and said, hey kids, I don't believe in communism, I think capitalism is a better system, you would be in Siberia if you survived. And here in Emory University, if you stood up in your classroom and said, I don't believe this evolution theory is true, I think it's pretty obvious there must have been a designer to this system, you would be in intellectual Siberia. You would lose your job. It has happened to hundreds of teachers, just simply for standing up and say, look, I think the evidence is here, folks. There must have been a designer. If I asked you to explain how computers came to be, but you cannot use man as your answer, I only want a purely naturalistic explanation for the origin of computers. Purely naturalistic. The answer has to lie within the computer. How did these molecules get together? How did this data get together? How did these plastic molecules come together and the different silicone chips? How did it happen? Your answer has to lie in the computer. I've already eliminated the only obvious answer to the problem at the beginning by my definition. They're trying to eliminate the only logical answer to the question by their definition of science. They want to define science as things that we can observe and test and demonstrate in the natural world. Okay, well then that eliminates both evolution and creation. Both are unobserved. We don't see anything change. We don't see anything created from nothing. Here's the problem. Both creation and evolution are religious. I admit mine's a religion. They don't admit theirs is a religion. And all of us are paying for their religion to be taught in the school system. And I, for one, resent that. So my answer is still the same. God did it. My question for them now?
Your question for them, quickly, please.
Okay, my question for them. I have several thousand questions I guess I'd like to ask. Does your textbook you're holding in front of you that you said you trust, here used at this university,